How are you?
Okay.
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Right.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Good.
This is your second expo, isn't it? Or, I
It
think.
has. I was here, I think, 3 years ago,
Mhm.
and then the following year, 2 years ago, I went to the London Film and Comic Con,
Mhm.
and then I missed London last year. I wasn't here for anything, and so I'm glad to be back. Very glad.
Very good. Good. Start off with the basic question you're probably asked all the time. How did you get into voice acting?
Quite by accident, actually.
Okay.
I'd been doing a lot of acting ever since I was very young, but voice acting, never really thought of that, never really put that together. I mean, I was a big fan of a lot of different shows as a little kid, but it never occurred to me that there were actually people doing the voices of those characters. And then about 13 years ago, I was working on a video production in Houston, and one of the guys on the production said, "Hey, you've got a lot of acting experience, don't you?" "Yeah." He said, "You ought to go and audition for this place in town. They buy these Japanese cartoons and they dub them into English, and they need actors. They're looking for actors." I thought that sounded like fun. So I went and auditioned, and I got cast. And that was ADV Films was the name of the company. And at the time, it was just a tiny little group of people like us who kind of loved this particular thing and wanted to just do it. And the first show I did was Vega in Street Fighter 2. And I mean, I didn't realize, I didn't know what they did with the things once we recorded them. I didn't know how they were sold, where they were distributed, how much they made. I knew nothing about the business. I would just go in and record some characters and leave. And then it just grew from there. And after having done 10 or 15 shows, 20 shows with ADV, I got invited to an anime convention. And I didn't even know they did those. I mean, I used to go to sci-fi conventions and pop culture conventions like this myself. I'd dress up in my best, Captain Kirk uniform or Obi-Wan Kenobi or something, and I'd dress up like everybody else. But I didn't know they had anime cons. And I went and was just blown away by all the people that were dressed up like characters that I played, and had toys and action figures and wall scrolls, all from these shows that I'd worked on. I didn't even know that stuff existed. And then I met people from Funimation at a convention. I started working at Funimation and doing more and more shows. And then I met people from Los Angeles and started working in Los Angeles. It just kind of snowballed. And I was very, really overwhelmed by how it took off and how it grew from there. I never planned it. I always make sure and give credit to God, because I didn't do anything. I didn't plan for it. I didn't study for it. A door just opened, and I kind of haphazardly stumbled in, and it's been a really good door. It was a really good door.
Thank you.
I noticed you started singing a lot of theme songs for a lot of anime, and there was a phase where, if it was on TV, they would change the theme song completely. So do you know why suddenly they decided to start dubbing the songs?
Well, there isn't really a set time that they started dubbing songs. What often happens is, a lot of times the Japanese companies that own the original shows and all the original music will not grant the American company a license to dub the songs, because they want to sell CDs with the original Japanese bands. So, like with Full Metal Alchemist, they wouldn't let us dub any of the songs. They wanted to promote the bands that sang all the songs, and they were very popular songs over there, so they didn't allow Funimation to dub any of the songs. But then you come to One Piece or Dragon Ball Kai, and they got permission to do those, and so because I have a very extensive background in music, I've been singing and writing and producing music twice as long as I've been voice acting. I got the chance to, after like 10 years of never having any music, never being involved in music of anime at all, I just did voice acting. It was kind of weird, because I did so much music, but it was like they never asked me to do anything music related with the anime until I was asked to sing a couple of One Piece songs. And then there was the Dragon Ball, then there was a GT song, and then there was another One Piece song, and then there was the Kai theme, and then since then I've done songs from D and Angel and Orin High School, and yeah. So it's just up to the Japanese companies whether they'll let the American companies dub them or not.
What role are you most proud of doing?
I'm sorry?
What role are you most proud of playing?
Without question, I would have to say Edward Elric from Full Metal. I had no idea that I would be so impacted by that show and by that character. I remember when I was young, it's probably way before any of you, but there was a very famous actor named Yul Brynner, bald guy, and he played the king in The King and I. He did all kinds of stuff, but he was most known for playing the king in The King and I, which was a musical. I remember, like, he did that show for like 30 years on Broadway, and like played that role, went out on stage and played that role like almost every night for 30 years. Thousands of performances. And I realized that of all the characters that I played, as much as I loved Full Metal and loved that character, I also had played it for longer than any other character I'd ever played. When you consider the first series and then the OVAs, the movie, Conquer of Shambhala, then the OVAs, any video games, and then Brotherhood came out, so all of Brotherhood, which was longer than the first series, and then the movie from Brotherhood, and the OVAs from Brotherhood, and suddenly, you know, I played this wonderful character in this amazing show for like, you know, 130, 140 episodes, and there are a lot of roles that I'm very proud of. I mean, I love Tamaki from Oran High School Host Club, and Zero from Vampire Knight, and there's a show that's on television in the States right now called Kakaishi, and I play Yoshimori, the lead in that show, and I love that show. Fi from Tsubasa, Ikaku from Bleach. There are so many great shows, but it's really hard to top Full Metal. It's just one of those great, great shows. And I remember being young. I remember when I was 13, 14, and my friend and I loving Speed Racer. Now, I didn't know it was anime. I didn't even know what anime was. I just knew that Speed Racer didn't look like Scooby-Doo. It didn't look like all of the other Western cartoons. It looked different. It was stylistically different. The voices were different. The delivery, the way they were performed was different than the other stuff that I was used to watching. And my friend and I used to run around all the time imitating people from Speed Racer. I mean, who could have ever known that you fast forward, 30 years and I'm in the middle of anime, which Speed Racer was.
Sorry.
Are there any roles you've gone for and not got and really regretted it?
Well, there are always those, yeah.
Is there any one which sticks out in particular?
Pardon? Well, yeah, you know what? I think the worse than that have been the roles that I was cast in and started recording, and then the company went down, and they lost the license, and it went to another. I don't know if you're familiar with Sergeant Frog.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I got cast as Sergeant Frog. I was playing Kororo. We recorded 15 episodes. I mean, we were well into doing that show, and I loved that show so much. And then ADV went under, and all of the licenses they had went to other companies, and Funimation got Sergeant Frog, and they just started over from the beginning and recast it with people locally, and suddenly it was gone. And same thing with Gurren Lagann. I was playing a really great role in Gurren Lagann, and then ADV went under, and the property went to a company in Los Angeles, and I was not living in Los Angeles at the time, and so there was, I wanted to be involved in Death Note, but Death Note went to a production company in Canada, and you will not find any American voice actors in any Canadian productions, because that's part of the deal, is you have to use their people. There are plenty of those. If you do anything for long enough, there are things you really, really wanted to do or were gunning for, and you didn't get it. And that's just part of business. That's part of acting, is rejection. You've heard that before, but it's true. For every one great role you get, there are 10 or 15 that you auditioned for and you didn't get. I wanted to play a particular role in Hitalia, which is this quirky, funny thing you guys may or may not know about. I wanted so much to play a particular role in that, and I was gunning for it, and it came down to me and one other guy, and I came this close. But the other guy's voice was a little higher than mine was, and that's why he got the role. And so that's going to happen a lot. But I will say that I'm extremely grateful and humbled for the opportunities that I have gotten. I've gotten to play a lot of great characters, and I wouldn't change anything. Now, what time is it?
It's 12.
Is it